Today, we have the man of the hour. It is Tom Burden with Grypmat. Now, this guy's been on Shark Tank. Not only did he launch out of a career in the Air Force, but also launched into his own business, an entrepreneur, an innovator, a guy who's willing to grab the bull by the horns and go after it with a startup company. Absolutely awesome. It's your favorite time of week. Once again, for the Legacy Podcast, I'm your host, Kinsley Jordan, your winning coach, encouraging you to crush your goals, ignite your dreams, and forge a legacy in your life. So let's go straight to it right now with a video interview with Tom Burden. Tom, welcome so much. So glad to have you here on the Legacy Podcast.
Yeah, super excited to be on. Thanks for having me. Love your show and love the mission that you guys have.
Yeah, dude, it was so cool seeing you on LinkedIn of what you guys were doing. Just overall, the idea of Grypmat and how you took this concept from a frustration in your life to an actual, not just a product, but a company launching in and solving problems for a lot of people. A competitor on Shark Tank, which was, awesome. You've accomplished so much in such a short amount of time. Most people would think, dude, if I could get to Shark Tank in like 10 years, that'd be massive. But you've been able to do not only that, but also launch a company. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did this idea begin with?
Yeah, so the Grypmat, it's a flexible tool tray. Gives you a safe place to set your tools. It's non-slip. So where the idea came from was that I was an F-16 mechanic at the time. I was also going to college for mechanical engineering. And I was struggling with my tools sliding off the aircraft, and I was tired of running up and down the ladder every time I needed to set something down. And I decided I was going to solve the problem.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in my mom's car. I know she's got a non-slip mat on her dashboard to keep her cell phone in place when she's driving and over the road. So I was like, well, we could, make these larger for tools. And I have a background working with my dad and doing general construction and he does snow removal, so working on snow plows. So knew how to make things generally. Also did a trade school when I was in high school. It was a vocational school that when I was a junior, I learned machine trades. And I also learned, as a senior, I learned CAD. So how to draw on the computer.
Yeah.
So what I really think what happened was that, at a young age, I was just kind of I had an intersection of unique skills. So there's not too many 19-year-olds that know how to do construction, draw on CAD, have machine trades, and also work on that. So, once that collided, that's when the ideas started coming.
That's wild. It's something you said there really sparks with me is that there's a lot of people who find themselves in this innovative, in this entrepreneur place where you look at their skills and where they're at in life and you say, man, when you look around at other people, you feel like there's something different. I have different skills. I have a different mindset. I have a different talent than other people have. And is that really where it began for you? Yeah.
I'd say the core of it was just a different perspective. My talent was to, coming up visualizing hardware products, where if your talent is coming up with apps or maybe management systems, or maybe you're if you want to improve the Air Force, but you want, maybe you're a nutritionist. So doing, the healthy route, is your superpower really. Yeah. So just identifying your superpower and the situation that you're in too. However you need.
Yeah. For those of you who listen often to the Legacy Podcast, you hear us mention this as your passion. What is your passion? How can we connect you to your passion for with a purpose to create fulfillment in your life? And so many times, people who are entrepreneurs, people who are visionaries, people who are excited about something in their life find themselves frustrated by the normalcy of just the system, if you will. So you're a F-16 mechanic in the Air Force, and you say, there's got to be a way to be able to fix this. So what was it like in your environment when you said, hey, I got an idea? Because did you stay in the Air Force and try to create this? What happened when you went to your, I think I know the answer to this. What happened when you went to your superiors and said, hey, I got an idea?
So there was they're like, yeah, that's definitely an issue. That's, they like the idea. I think it was like more like, yeah, that's cute. Cool. And then it just like, I think there was a point where I was just like persistent as fuck about it.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I mean, there were situations where it was like, so if you ever ask someone for something and they don't tell you no, but you're getting the vibe no.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So what I learned when I was younger is that I'm like very numb to that.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, he didn't say no, so like we can just go get on the jet, take pictures.
So it must mean yes.
Like,
it must mean yes.
Yeah. Like, I had a product. I was trying to do a product that you would like stand on because when the jet's like real slick and like curvy, to like reduce that issue. But the problem is like that's significantly larger liability issue if you're like someone stands on it and falls off of the jet versus your Grypmat. Someone sets a tool and the tool slides off.
Yeah.
So I remember trying to get pictures on the jet, and this chief was like, he's like, what's the liability if someone falls? I was like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll stand on it. But that was him. No, but that was me just like, oh, you didn't say no. Let's just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was kind of funny, like looking back on that.
Yeah. So you have this idea, you go to your bosses, they essentially say, yeah, sure. That's a cute idea, as you said. So what made you say, no, it's more than a cute idea. Like this is an actual solution to actual problems? Because for our viewers who may not know, one of the issues with the mechanics of aircraft, especially military aircraft, have is FOD, so foreign object debris, and making sure that all of your tools are accounted for. Because you can imagine if you're working on an engine and you leave a tool in the engine and you start it, like the whole engine is destroyed, and that's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. So when you're talking about being able to keep track of your tools, like this is a major area. This is a major focus area. So I can only imagine that you, as a mechanic on F-16s, you were like, dude, I've got a solution. Like, just trust me, like give me a shot at this thing. So what was that next step of saying, okay, clearly it's not getting the traction I need. What did you do as this entrepreneur, as somebody who had a goal, had a vision? What was that next step? Yeah,
so the initial like fist fight I was trying to do was get it directly into the military, which was very difficult without having a background in military sales or like commercial sales. So just kind of naturally, I guess the core of what happened was I was applying for grants, and I was applying for grants, and the grants would want you to get customer contacts, so if you ever heard of the business model canvas, the initial part says, or the core of it is around getting customer contacts and getting feedback from your users. Yeah. So I was going like talking to mechanics, and I was like, hey, what issues are you having with your tools? Do you think you can use this Grypmat product? And then they'd be like, yeah, I could also like use it on my car, or like some people also worked at they would be in the National Guard on the weekend. Yeah. And then usually National Guards share a runway with an airport. So they'd be working on their civilian job. They'd be working on aviation aircraft. So like the airlines or whatever. Yeah. So that's when I was like, oh, okay, so there's some space in this in the airlines industry. So started to going to like aviation trade shows, like Oshkosh is the world's biggest air show. So it's called.
Did you already have the product at this time?
No.
Did you already have a prototype?
At this point, I was like prototyping, or the initial idea was that like the Grypmat, it wasn't like a tray. It just would have a lip at the bottom. Yeah. And there would be hooks on this side. So to work on a jet, you had to take off the panels. There's no like hood that you pop. So it would go onto the aircraft, and then you would have your tools here. Yeah. So after I made that prototype, that's when people were like, oh, this is a cute idea. And then when I made basically one with a lip all the way around the edge, that's when it was like, oh, that could really work. Yeah. Because what's happening is I wanted like each part of the jet you'd be working on, you'd have a different Grypmat.
Yeah.
But everyone was like, yeah, I don't want to constantly run back and forth to the tool crib to grab a new Grypmat.
Yeah.
So once I was like, this is one size fits all, then it like started to click. And then, at that point it was being able to be used in general aviation, and then was getting more, feedback from, when we really got to Oshkosh, that's when we were getting like, Oshkosh, there's like the demographic there is like older and just rich as fuck.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. So for people who don't know what Oshkosh is, it's the largest, if not the largest, air show gathering of aircraft in the United States. Across the world, I think Paris Air Show is probably the largest equivalent of what you would see. But you're talking general aviation, you're talking airlines, old aircraft, new aircraft, vintage, military. Like everybody is at this place.
Yeah. So the specific demographic there is what's called home builders, which means they build a plane at home. So these are a lot of people who own their own aircraft. So
okay.
It's kind of funny because you'll just see people who are like, they're basically on vacation. They're wearing like flip flops, like
yeah.
and like a tank top, and then you realize that they're like the lead maintenance guy for all of Delta or something.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
What would happen is to tell like those guys, to tell the difference between those guys and like the local hillbillies, I would just be like, hey, did you fly in or drive in? And they'll be like, oh, I flew my whatever aircraft and, my Bonanza and,
yeah.
Normally my other plane's broke, so I was getting worked on. So I just, had to fly the Bonanza. I'm like, that's who I want to buy to. That's
yeah. Dude, not only an inventor, but a natural born marketer as well.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so I just want to pause there for a second, because at this time you're going through prototypes, right? So for our listeners, if you have an idea, if you have a goal, if you have something where you're saying this could really work, at this point where you're out there engaging and marketing to these potential buyers, you're on your second or third prototype at this point?
Maybe like 15th.
Okay, okay. So several prototypes. At this point, though, did you have a marketing team or was it you?
Oh, no, it was just me.
Dude, this is what I'm talking about. This is the beauty of entrepreneurship, innovation, is that the dude took a prototype out to Oshkosh and he goes out there and says, screw it, I'm going to advertise, I'm going to do whatever I can because I believe in this thing. If there's one thing you got to take away from this, it's this. If you don't believe in your goal, if you don't believe in your vision, if you don't believe in your product, nobody else is going to. So let's catch back up to where we're at now. So you're walking around to Oshkosh, you have a product where you're like, dude, I need to get these people to pay attention to this. And you're just being relentless. You're being a dude who has a dream and believes in it.
So very first Oshkosh I went to was like 2014. And my buddy Ted, who I met in Milwaukee at a military business accelerator, his dad lived down the street from where Oshkosh was. So I was able to like sleep on their couch for free, which was a huge blessing because like now, like normally it's like it's like probably $500 a night for a room.
Yeah.
And I was like crazy broke. So I was like trying to sneak into the show and not have to pay the fee, let alone pay $500 for a room.
Yeah.
So I just I would just start talking to anyone and everyone. At first I was like nervous about it, but then I remember this guy specifically, he was next to this new plane that has like really like long wings, and I think it was electric, which was like very like new for that industry at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, so you have one of these or what? He goes, yeah, over the years, I probably built and sold over 45 airplanes. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, I just showed him a picture. I was like, what do you think of this? And he was like, oh my God. He's like, do you have that? I was like, I have one in my bag. What do you think? He's like, you need to talk to Aero Innovate. It was like a new business accelerator that they were doing in aviation. Yeah. So I go to Aero Innovate and they're having like a competition that night of like a pitch competition. And I was like, who do I got to talk to be in this competition.
So
And they were
hold up. So that afternoon, you just happen to run into this dude. He's like, you need to go to this place. You show up that night, not having been registered or anything for this pitch competition.
Yeah. Long story short, they didn't let me pitch in it, but I did find an aviation investor there.
Yeah.
Never ended up like working with him, but he was like, he just looked at my product. He's like, are you pitching tonight? And I was like, no, they wouldn't let me. Long story short, the next year got to be a part of Aero Innovate. They gave me a free booth. And at that point, was still trying to get into manufacturing.
Yeah.
And what happened, the thing is, I didn't have the product for sale yet. And the person who opened up the innovation tent that we were in, he was the previous CEO for Cessna, which is a really popular aircraft company.
Yeah.
And he opens it up and he walks over to the booth and he goes, I want to buy one of these and I want to buy some for my friends. How much are they? And I was like, well, I'm taking pre-orders. He's like, and he's like, how much have I bought 5? And I was like, well, that would be a volume discount. We could do $50 a piece. And I just like, I didn't even know like how much to like cost of goods were. I didn't even know where to get it manufactured.
Oh
I was
my gosh. Yeah.
I could just like make some more in my basement or something.
Yeah.
And so what happened was at that time I was like filling out paperwork to do a grant for another grant. So
yeah,
basically if I got accepted to this, I would get $50,000. So the thing is I would have to, it was a 1-to-1 match up to $50,000. So if I raise $50,000, then they'll give me $50,000. So, to be competitive in the grant process, I had to they wanted me to get revenue.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'll just take pre-orders. So this guy comes up and I was like, okay, this is the time to do pre-orders. So like the whole time I'm at this trade show for 7 days, I'm going to try to get pre-orders. And I was like, dude, this was easy, man. The first dude in the door, I made like $200 off of him. The rest of the day I didn't sell any. And then like every day at the show, I would sell like 1 to 5. And that was one of the lowest points for me at Grypmat.
Wow.
A big quitting point.
So when you went into that, did you kind of try to curb your expectation, or this was your first major trade show, like aviation trade show at that point, where you were displaying what Grypmat was?
That was actually my second trade show. I did maybe third or fourth. Before that, I did a few trade shows within the military and I sold nothing.
Yeah.
Actually, there was a really big expensive one in Chicago that I almost went bankrupt from it because I spent like all my money to get to the show and I thought I would get some type of sales.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work. And then I just was like, I remember being like super depressed.
Yeah.
When packing up for that show. Cause like nothing came through. And like, that's not how you work with the military of just like hoping to get sales at the door.
Yeah.
That's definitely more of a longer play. So yeah, that was like me trying, like that trade show did not work. And I remember thinking like leaving that trade show, I was like, I'm going to perfect how to do trade shows. And because there were so many like rookie mistakes I was making.
Yeah.
And now we do trade shows at like a third of the cost of back then and significantly more effective. But yeah, at the Oshkosh show, that was the first time ever like trying to sell anything. Like,
yeah, that's that process, that mentality right there, that there's a lot of people that when they encounter, especially when you're talking about innovation, when you're talking about entrepreneurship, when you're passionate about something, a lot of people will come up against those really disappointing moments, and they will allow that to define that moment of failure or feeling like failure to define the future and say, well, this isn't going anywhere. I need to stop. Because how easy would it have been for you to say, dude, I'm almost bankrupt. Like, clearly nobody wants this thing. This is stupid. I should probably stop. Was that a thought in your head?
Oh yeah. I mean, the thing is you are at a trade show booth for like 8 or 9 hours and like the most you'll make is $200.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're actually making like sometimes $40 an an entire day.
Yeah.
So, it's that's very depressing, where you're like, man, this last trade show I was at, I made zero. Now, like, I'm making, $50 in a day. Like, we're improving, but this is not working.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And then the hard part was, so I was at the booth by myself, and then I didn't let, so at that, the best lesson that I learned from that trade show is that I was seeing other companies that were in a similar stage as me that also got free booths from Aero Innovate. And I remember thinking to myself, like, no opportunity will be lost due to my effort. And what that was meaning to me was, like, no matter how I'm feeling, I'm going to, like, be here forever. Like, I'm going to push this as much as I can, because I'm seeing other people who have booths who, like, their first day didn't go well. They're coming late. They're leaving early.
Yeah.
They're, taking 2 hours for lunch, where, like, I am there early. I'm staying late. I am not taking a lunch. I'm like, I think there was one day I left for a bathroom break.
Yeah.
It's like, can go to the bathroom before, or you go after. Like, I'm at the booth because I'm not going to let one person go by that doesn't know, that I'm not going to let someone walk by and not tell them my story, tell them my product, because they could be a potential person who buys.
Yeah.
So,
dude, hitting the effort relentlessly, knowing that, you know what, I've done everything I can possibly do. Hey, we're going to pause right here, because when we come back, I want to be able to dive into, what would you tell yourself if you could go back and tell yourself when you started this journey? What would you tell our listeners here at Legacy Podcast? When we come back, I want to dive into, what would your advice be to startups, to people who are wanting to chase after their dreams, they have a vision, but they're scared to get started. So we're going to come right back. Hey, thanks so much for tuning into the Legacy Podcast right here on your favorite podcast and vodcast. Stay tuned right next. Hey, thanks for watching the Legacy Podcast with your winning coach, Kinsley Jordan. Now, don't forget, you can subscribe right now just by hitting the logo right over there, and make sure you hit the bell so you get notified when new great content is available to you. Also, you can follow and keep up with me at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube by just going to Kinsley Jordan. That's my tag where you can find it. Also, if you're looking for a performance coach like me to be able to help you reach your goals, just go to www.kinsleyjordan.com and sign up. I'm right here to help you achieve your goals and build a legacy in your life. So let's get back to the Legacy Podcast with more great content right here. Hey, welcome back to Legacy Podcast with your winning coach, Kinsley Jordan, as we're talking to the founder and CEO of Grypmat, Tom Burden. And we've been talking through the amazing journey of how he had an idea, took it to some people, they said, it's probably not going to work, and then launched into his discovery process of identifying not only a market for it, but also getting this thing into actual production and making it into a business. So Tom, again, welcome back to Legacy Podcast. So glad to have you. And where we left off is that you were talking about the trade shows, getting invited to the trade shows, having moments of some serious disappointment and almost like bankruptcy of saying, dude, I don't know if this thing's going to work. The pain of it.
Yeah. So it was at Oshkosh 2015. I would say that was the lowest point that I had for Grypmat. And that was a point where I was about to quit everything. I actually called a friend and said, hey, I've got another idea I want to work on. This isn't really working out. I'm gonna quit Grypmat. And what happened was, if you've ever heard of Eric Thomas, he's a motivational speaker. He has a video out of Buster Douglas about how Buster Douglas knocked out Mike Tyson. And I almost want to cry right now, but that without that video, I would have quit easily.
Does he know that? Have you ever reached out to him?
I was at the Summit of Greatness in Columbus, Ohio with Lewis Howes, and Eric Thomas was there. And I didn't talk specifically about that video, but I said, because of your videos, I kept going.
Yeah.
So Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
I should make we'll have to make a video about that. But
yeah, completely. Well, yeah, oh man. Well, totally worth reaching out to him to let him know that. So after your trade shows, after that moment, you had this inspirational moment of watching the video and say, I need to get back into it. What was it about that moment that changed? So was that like a new fire of saying, I'm not going to quit?
So specifically what happened with that show, why I didn't quit was, so the hard part was during the day, I was doing the trade show with events before and after, at least 10 to 12 hours a day. And then at night I would write the grant.
Yeah.
So the thing is, I'm having this horrible time at the trade show. Then at night I'm writing, had an awesome time at Oshkosh, customer validation, 1,000 sales. I'm like, shit, we got to get $1,000 in sales. That's the goal right now. And so it just like mentally just like draining me hard. And then I had like $1,000 in like $1,051 in sales or something like that. And I had I used that money to actually get home. So I didn't even like have the money to make the product.
Yeah.
So, I'll just apply. I mean, we had to do 3 revisions of the grant, which I didn't think we had to do any. And I submitted the grant and then I got it. And then I was like, well, now I got enough money to like find a way to make this work.
Yeah.
And then that's what really, without that 50,000, it was funny, like I get the 50,000 and so 1-to-1 match. So now I'd like raise $50,000,
Yeah.
but like finally like get $50,000. And I was like, oh, okay, we're really doing this.
Yeah.
That like really pushed me through until the following year. I actually factory style had 600 Grypmats and was going to officially launch the product. So many Grypmats in the car or in the truck and on the trailer, like I couldn't even see out the passenger side window. Like, I was driving from this warehouse in Michigan and I was like, if I sell everything out, I could like drive back overnight and like get another 600 and like we could really, blow this trade show up. And then the first day I sold 13 and I was like, fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Hopefully I could just sell enough to see out the like passenger window because it was so hard driving here. And then by the end of the show, I ended up selling out. So that was pretty huge.
Wow. Dude, it's so cool to see multiple times in your story as you're sharing your story is you've had moments to quit. You've had moments to say, dude, I'm out. Like this is not going to work. And then it's just on the other side of the storm. It's just on the other side of the point that where people want to quit and say, you know what, this is too hard. The breakthrough is just on the other side. And that's one of the things that, man, if we can encourage you here, if Tom and I can encourage you today with one thing, it's this. Stop trying to determine the value of what you are going to do based on the current circumstances. Everything teaches you to be able to grow stronger. Everything is a lesson learned. And if you will incrementally take those lessons learned and those moments that seem like failure and turn those into a positive of honing in on your skill or honing in on your goal and allowing that to transform you so that your future isn't determined by failure, but instead it's determined by building blocks of your lessons learned. I mean, it's all a mental game. Do you have the drive to stay into it and to stay engaged? That's what it all comes down to.
Yeah. I guess like one thing that would really keep me grounded and like moving forward is that, I think of people like Steve Jobs or, other people who started in a garage or a basement.
Yeah.
And what I would always say to myself is, when I think I can't, I think of the ones who can, and I realize they're no different than me.
Yeah. Wow, dude, that's so good. So good. So one of the things that I think when people look at, your advertisement or they look at LinkedIn and they look at Grypmat clearly for good reason, they notice the Shark Tank and the pitch that you did there and the astounding job that you guys did there. But they don't realize that that's 3 years after you've already been doing this process, right? So bring us up to speed that how did you get into, you saw some success through the sales and then you say, hey, we're going to go to Shark Tank. What gave you that confidence to say, okay, we're going to go on national TV and pitch this idea and we could potentially be totally destroyed or it could help us. It's got to be a scary thought.
So after Oshkosh sold everything, so we sold everything, and I just drove home from Wisconsin to Toledo, Ohio. And as soon as I got home, I put my house up for sale so I could get more money for inventory. And
hold on, don't blow past that real quick. Don't blow past that for a second. Wait a minute. What? Hold on. This dude is so committed. You come back and put your house on the market so you can make more of the product.
Yeah. So the tough part was like I'd have to upfront the cash to get the product made. So you upfront the cash to the factory, they make it, and then it gets to you, and then you go sell it. So if you sell direct to consumer, minimum time of your money tied up is going to be 3 months.
Yeah.
And then you have a distributor, they'll have what's called a net, which means they typically have at least a net 30, which means they'll have the product for 30 days before they pay you. So easily that the time span of you putting in money and getting out money could be like 4 months. So you're trying to this like pipeline that's going to be cycling, throughout basically each quarter or more. So I needed more money to like feed the beginning of the pipeline. And the toughest part was like, I was really close with my neighbors. I was like, I got to do this. I got to sell the house.
Yeah.
And so I was living out of my car for like a month or two. And
I'm sorry, what? I thought you said you were living out of your car for a month or two.
Yeah.
I don't know if the internet was jumping for a second, or did I get that right?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't that bad because I was like learning ways to make it easier. For example, like I would eat Chipotle it was in the summertime. I would eat Chipotle for dinner, and I would eat what I call the troll bowl, where I'll get both beans, both rice, half a scoop of steak, half a scoop of chicken, and all of the toppings.
Yeah.
So that's the last 2 meals. So I would get that for dinner, eat half of it, and then in the morning I'd put it up on the dashboard of my car, and I would go in and work out. So while I'm working out, my car is getting really hot, and I would work out, shower at the gym, and then I would come back and eat the rest of the Chipotle. And then
oh my gosh.
A lot of times.
Were you working out of your car too?
I mean, it was sometimes. It was kind of, well, I would like find a co-working space or like a coffee shop or something.
Yeah.
Or I mean, I would push I was pushing really hard on like couch surfing with friends. Yeah. So it wasn't like most of it. Like actually, what happened was my good buddy Danny Woodcock in Toledo. His roommate was worked for a fraternity, and it was during rush week, which is like super busy for them.
Oh yeah.
He was out. He was like gone like 3 weeks out of the month at least. So he was like, his name is Bernie. So Danny was like, yeah, you can stay in, like you can crash in Bernie's room. Just make the bed every time you're done, because his girlfriend will get really pissed if someone like sleeps in the bed. So I took a picture of the bed before I ever slept in it, and then I would just make the bed look like that picture every single time. And then,
oh my gosh, man! So it's like you're talking commitment after commitment after commitment. Like you're in at this point. You're in wholesale, like sleeping in your car, showering at the gym, crashing on any couch or bed available, because you know there's something to this. Like you're going to see this thing through.
Yeah. I guess like something I was always thinking about is like when I feel like when you have a product or a company, there's like multiple sources like of like power kind of. Yeah. So there's like fame, there's just money, and then there's just hustle.
Yeah.
So at the time I didn't have the first two. So like I could find some money through grants. No one really knew what Grypmat was at the time, but the thing is I could, really hustle. Like, for example, if it was Mark Cuban, pushing a product, people know who he is. He's got the network. He's got, can throw some cash towards marketing. And then like, he also has a really good like hustle work ethic. But I was like, it was kind of going back to like no opportunity to be lost due to my effort. So it's like, I'm going to give it the max effort I can, to really, to make that work, to make it work.
Yeah.
What was funny is like when the trade show booths were so bad that like anyone who was working with Grypmat or would come to a booth, they would just be like, dude, they'd be like, man, hopefully we can get it next trade show. And I'm just like, gotta make it happen this trade show. So after Oshkosh was this show called NBAA, National Business Aviation Association. This is all you wear a 3-piece suit, you wear a tie, you like very business, like this is where a lot of dollars get passed around. So I've got right now a table that I bought from Walmart that I'm going to return to Walmart after the show. I've got a sheet to cover that.
I'm not laughing at you, man. I'm like, it is awesome. It is awesome to see the fire and the passion, because this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about on the Legacy Podcast. Like, don't let anybody else steal your vision, your idea, your goals. Like, it's yours. Go after it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So we got the table, we got the black bed sheet, we've got this display that I made before I sold my house. I ripped a door off of the garage and I cut it up to make a display. So it looked like this and had like a curve on it. Yeah. And then the Grypmats would sit on the curve. So, and I just painted it black. And then I had like one of those like pull up things. It's like 3 feet wide and it had like pictures on it. And then I had like flyers that were still from Oshkosh that we were like handing out. And I remember like I was paying this dude part-time, and he was a graphic designer, and he was very like aesthetically, he really likes everything to look good. And I just remember him so disappointed. He was so like, he was just like, well, I mean, we can try. We can.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, there's always next year. Next year we have like one of these backdrops, and like we're getting like a fine for like not having carpet in our square. You're supposed to have carpet. So like going to Walmart to get like those like yoga workout squares. And then we end up going to the Airbnb, which there's like 4 of us. So my good buddy Ian, who's now still a part of Grypmat. There was Lucas Latour, who he was like he just like was in between jobs or something, or in between like a company he was working on, and he was like, well, I've never been on a plane before, and he's good at sales. And I was like, yo, you want to, like, I'll pay for your plane ticket if you come help out at the booth. It was like round trip ticket for like $90. I was like, dude, and then the graphic designer and me. So there's 4 of us, and we go back to this Airbnb that said it had 4 beds, only has 2 beds. So we're all like went up in this like, it was like a one size below a queen. It was like kind of tight. But so after like the graphic designer's like, dude, what is going on? And then it's like, oh, hey, you got to share a bed. So I was like, I'm going to talk to every single person at every single booth. And there's a ton of booths. And I remember this one lady around the corner I found, she did like articles, or she did like write-ups in magazines. And I brought her over to the booth, and she's like, let me go get my camera guy. We'll take a picture. And there's a picture of me. I can find it and send it to you, but like holding the Grypmat, and they made an article about it. And from that article, we got in touch with NASA, and NASA ended up buying so many Grypmats that it like broke our website. So, so that was a big like breakthrough. And then also like at the show, we got in contact with Aviall. So Boeing owns a company called Aviall that's like the Amazon for the aviation industry. Yeah. So what happened was there was a Boeing meeting that let out, and all the Aviall people were like it was like, there was like main drag was like a ton of people. So they're like trying to like go faster down this like side path. And this lady, Jamie, she lives in Dallas. Sometimes I talk to her still, but she just turned and was like, "What is this?" And we were like, "It's the Grypmat." And and she looks at the other guys. She goes, "Do we have this? Do we sell this?" And they're like, "No, we've never seen that before." And she's like, "Who adds new products? Like, we need to get this in here now." And it was a very slow process, but we ended up like selling with 80. And it was funny because I was trying to like act like cool, but she's like, "How many of these do you have?" And I was like, "Well, we got 1,600 and like 2,400 on the way," which that was like from the product from like selling the house. She goes, "Okay, what if we buy all of them?" And I'm trying to act cool, but like our graphic designer's like, oh, he's just like looking back and forth, like, "Oh my God, like
play it
like,
cool,
no.
Dale, play it cool."
Right. Just wait till they like give us a check, then I'll be excited.
Oh my gosh, dude.
So that was a big boost for us.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it was like that was to the point of like, it doesn't matter about, you know, what the booth looks like. It doesn't matter the circumstances. Like, my hustle's still going to be there. I'm going to still talk to that person I can.
Yeah, doing literally everything you can. You know, there was a couple things I did even just this last week that in my mind I was like, what do I have to lose? Like, what just with part of my business, I was like, what do I have to lose? Like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Somebody's going to say no, or they're going to make fun of the fact that I asked him to do this. Like, I don't care. What do I have to lose? No is always free, and no is always what most people are like preconditioned to. So if I'm already expecting no and I ask a question and they say yes, dude, like that could literally be your NASA sale. That could be, you know, it could be whatever it is. But if you don't ask, you're never going to know, and you're never going to see that opportunity. It's huge. So what led to you deciding, hey, we're going to go on Shark Tank? We're going to launch into Shark Tank. And then where are you now from that?
Yeah. So kept like getting traction with trade shows. And then like the core of that part-time graphic designer was to do a Kickstarter. So we're going to do a Kickstarter and we're going to launch new products, because at these trade shows, everyone's like, we need a smaller one with more compartments. We need whatever.
Yeah.
And like, okay, so we're getting a lot of feedback from the customers, and I was like, well, this guy's good at Kickstarters. I was like, let's do a Kickstarter and we'll launch the new sizes. So we do a Kickstarter. Have you ever done a Kickstarter?
No. I have a lot of friends who have.
Kickstarters are very hard work. And it was like, so from the Kickstarter, we raised 113,000. And then like from there, you go to what's called Indiegogo, which is like kind of very similar to Kickstarter. And then you can continue to raise more money. And then, so everything that we raised was roughly like $160,000.
Yeah.
And with that Kickstarter, if it could go wrong, it did. Like the very first, we got banned from sending emails because we got like spammed really hard. We did this thing called like, it's got a weird name. It's called Thunderclap, which means you get everyone pre-registered to share at the same time. So to automatically share with everyone. So I had like 200 or 300 people signed up on Thunderclap. When it shared, it was supposed to show a picture or I think it was a video. It just showed a gray screen, where the picture was just like all gray, like it didn't show anything. No one saw what it was. So I like called Thunderclap. I was like, what is going on? Somehow this lady like redid the launch on everyone's account, and it ended up working. But it was so see, something I haven't told anyone on any podcast was that a big thing that we did is called the pump and dump. Pump and dump means you get people to, so when you put money into a Kickstarter, it doesn't charge you until your credit card, until the campaign is complete.
Yeah.
Then charge your credit card. So you put in your credit card, 30 days later or whenever, if it's successful, then it charges you. So the pump and dump is that you'll have people, so the creator cannot put their own money in, but you'll have other people put in a high ticket item of like $1,000. You have other people put in $1,000 to get the number up, to try to get the momentum to get it to keep going.
Yeah.
So we did the pump and dump of like I think it was $6,000 to $8,000, and we ended up raising in the first day like 11. And we set our goal crazy low, like $10,000, and people were like, "Oh my gosh, you got your goal." I'm like, "Yeah, but like that most of that money's like fake." And so over time, you have those people back out. If it's successful. I've seen campaigns who will do this. They're like, "Oh my gosh, it's great," and then they like pull the money back so it doesn't get charged, and it's like, dude, your campaign just flatlined. So what happened was the Kickstarter ended up, after doing everything, it was about $3,000. So I was in the positive about $3,000. I still had to ship everybody their stuff. Overall, I think I ended up losing about $3,000. But from the Kickstarter, a lot of, I call them scouts. There will be Shark Tank scouts that will encourage people to get signed up. So they gave me a link. They were just like, "Hey, you'd be a good fit for Shark Tank. We like your story. Here's how to apply online." And so the thing is, the year before was they asked me to be on Shark Tank. It was a scout, and I said no because I just came back from a deployment, and I was getting ready to go to Oshkosh to sell for the first time. So I said no because I didn't have any sales, and I've watched so much Shark Tank. I did not want to be the guy who's like, "Oh yeah, here's a cool product. What's your sales? 0."
Yeah.
So I told him no. So fast forward to now, okay, we got this Kickstarter, and I was like, I wish I wanted to have more sales, but she goes, "Well, the thing is, we opened up the application process today. We need a written application, a video application. Everyone right now is working on their applications, but if you give me a verbal commitment, I will submit your Kickstarter video as an application because it's answering all the questions that we would need.
Yeah.
Therefore, be the very first person to submit, and you would internally in Shark Tank, you'd get the most exposure."
Yeah.
And I was like, "All right, now's the time. Let's do it." And then it just, I actually had so how I ended up in Columbus, Ohio, I was like couch surfing, and I was couch surfing on my friend Louise's at her place. And the first time we were like walking up to the stairs, she goes, "Hey, do you know anyone who would want to be a subleaser? My roommate's moving out." And I was like, "I'll do it." And so the other roommate, Jackie, was very, very good at writing, and she would write everything that we had for the Kickstarter. And then she did all the writing for our Shark Tank application. So it was funny because with the Shark Tank application, there was she knew me pretty in depth just for like living together for like a year and a half. And it was funny because like throughout the process of Shark Tank, they would like refer back to that application. And I'm like, where did they get this shit? Like, how did they, so we do the practice pitch for Shark Tank. So you do a practice pitch before you go in front of the sharks. They're kind of like testing you to see if you'd be good for TV.
Yeah.
Trying to get like their best candidates in front of the sharks. So I bomb it like super bad, like did horrible. And my producer Kate comes up to me and she goes, "Are you religious? Can you pray or something to calm down?" And she goes, "Whatever happened to that little boy who wanted to be an inventor ever since he was 6 years old?" And I'm like, where the fuck is this coming from? And then later I looked at the application. I was like, oh, Jackie put like details about how I've always wanted to be an inventor, and like being on Shark Tank would be such
my gosh,
fulfilling to my dreams.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to be an inventor, but like she made it on thick. But
oh my gosh, Dude, that is wild. Oh my gosh, man. Your journey is lit. I just my cheeks hurt from smiling and laughing at just the power of the journey of what you've had to go through. And it's not, that's the amazing thing is that every single person who walks through this I'll say journey again, because this journey of deciding, okay, I'm going to go for this, and then having to work through the frustration, work through the pain, work through the disappointments, and then to have breakthrough after breakthrough when you needed it the most at the very last moment. Man, if there's one thing that we can encourage you today, that Tom and I can both encourage you on, is that, listen, if you're in it, if you're in it to win it, keep going. Don't allow the things, the breakdowns, the barriers of what previously would have held you back. There's hundreds of people who have quit doing what was in their heart, quit chasing after their passion, quit chasing after their goals because it got tough and they had a little bit of failure. But dude, it's been so cool to see and hear your story of how, moment after moment of making the decision of, man, okay, well, I'm going to sell the house to be able to fund the product, to be able to, sleep in my car. But that's what it takes, man. It is so awesome to hear that. So parting shot, because we're going to have to jet out of here in just a second. Parting shot of for you, if you had anything to be able to encourage people on, if you could go back to your old self and say, hey, what would I do different? What would I tell myself through this process? If you could start at the beginning, what would you tell us?
Yeah, so I'll give you two. One's a way of being, and one is very practical that everyone can do. One, the way of being is persistence. So something I've always said is, I might not be the smartest in the room, but I'm most likely the most persistent in the room.
Yeah.
The other one is the inventor of Spanx. Can't think of her name right now. Sarah Blakely. Her story is that she saw an opportunity and she took $5,000 out of her savings and invested it in the company. So the thing is, a very important part of when you start your journey is to be debt free.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, there was so much pressure for me that one little push would have completely knocked me off.
Yeah.
So not having any debt really gave me that was one thing I didn't have to worry about. And also the thing is, Sarah Blakely had $5,000 to invest that was debt free into $1 billion opportunity.
Yeah.
For most people right now, if $1 billion opportunity came by them, they couldn't have the $5,000 to invest. Now, people's mindset is, well, I could get $5,000 worth of credit cards. You don't know if Sarah had $5,000 of cash and then was going into debt or was using her other resources to do it. So, you want to be an entrepreneur, just getting your finances right is really critical.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's huge. There's several things we focus on, and Tom, you may not know this, but you'll get to know us more and more as we dive even more into what legacy, the legacy podcast and what we stand for. But one of those 5 areas that we focus on of being a whole person and developing yourself is financial. You have physical, your mental health, interpersonal, like the relationships you have with family and friends, professional, and financial. And that's one of the things that whether people get married, whether they launch into business, for whatever reason, it gets overlooked so much. But man, if you will just give yourself a moment, slow down, kind of curate your idea and get yourself stable financially, that is a huge, dude, what a great point. What a great point. Well, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, until you get that $5,000 in the bank, and all your debt's paid, do not look at any other routes of debt. I've seen being in the military, they hawk us at hardcore to get debt and payment system. So hit that benchmark of $5,000, then you can look into different credit card points or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's very important.
Dude, that is huge. Tom, we are going to have you back because I've had more fun. Here. I'm not kidding, man. We're going to have you back for sure, not just talking to the mentality, but maybe some of the technical, the challenges, because what you're getting into right now, like the finances, that's a real point that people are looking for the opportunity to say, okay, how did he do this? what is the knowledge that we could glean, the wisdom that we could glean off of your experiences and entrepreneurs and inventors like yourself. So we're definitely going to have you back on the Legacy Podcast, dude. Thank you so much for being here. It's awesome. So real quick before we get out of here, where can people find not only the Grypmat, but where can we follow you and keep up with the journey of yourself and your team at Grypmat?
Yeah, so we're on Instagram, Facebook, just at Grypmat, Grypmat. You can follow me at Tom26Burden or find me on Facebook, friend request me, or also on TikTok. I love making
TikTok, dude. Everybody says, Kinsley, you're too old for that. No, I'm not. Shut up. Man, if you're in business, you're not too old for whatever the market's bringing you. You'll never be too old. It's true. Tom, dude, thanks so much for being with us. To you and your team, the best of luck, Godspeed. And thank you again for just sharing the entrepreneurial, the wisdom, the vision, the excitement, and the transparencies of the failures. Because listen, you don't get to success by just having win after win. It takes a failure every now and then. It takes pushing through those hard times. So thank you so much for being a champion for us of setting the example of how to do that and what that looks like for us. So for us here at Legacy Podcast, listen, it has been so much fun with Tom Burden, CEO, founder of Grypmat, following his journey. You can see in the comment section below, if you're watching on YouTube, you can follow along with him on social media, or also on the description area on the Spotify and wherever podcasts are viewed and you're listening to this, you can find his contact info there right here. And listen, it's been a great time right here with your winning coach, Kinsley Jordan, on the Legacy Podcast, encouraging you to crush your goals, ignite your dreams, and forge a legacy in your life each and every day. Make sure you hit the subscription button right over there and the bell to get the notifications, and we'll catch you guys next time on Legacy.